Otsu here. Who else would it be? This is Observations with Otsu for April 23rd. Hope you've had a good week so far. We are doing this a couple days later than I usually do it. Usually do this on, Monday mornings due to the Easter or Resurrection Sunday holiday. I've kind of postponed that a little bit. So what we're going to do, as always, look at the weekly timeframes for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. We're going to also venture into the dominance market chart. We're going to look at total market cap 1, 2, 3, and then we'll probably look at DXY as well. Maybe a little bit of gold, what have you. I don't think I'm going to touch indices today. So anyway, that's kind of the introduction for that. In addition to that, if you haven't, go ahead and look at my Apex trading group. Link is going to be in the description. Going to keep up that special pricing for maybe a couple more days until I transfer everything to Patreon. So go ahead and look at that and let's get started. So first things first, we're actually going to look at the total market cap and see kind of what we are looking at in terms of the market. Now we have already kind of about halfway through the week already. We've had a pretty good week as far as especially as far as yesterday goes. Looking pretty good so far. I think this is going to continue. I have been talking more bullishly than I think most people are, and I've been doing that for probably the past 3 weeks. The first half of that probably wasn't as successful, but we're starting to gain traction here, okay? And we can see this here with the total market cap. We actually touched down here at this breaker here. So this was your bullish breaker here. A bullish breaker is when it pushes up against basically two zones at once. Here was your first zone, here's your second one, so it should retest here at the first marker, and that's exactly where we got that. That's back in November of 2024. We retested that. Now we're kind of up against the higher range here on the weekly on this swing high order block back in 2021. Okay, and so that's what we're looking at. So as far as the weekly goes, we are currently breaking above this. What we need to do on the total market cap is to hold above this zone, hold above 2.83 trillion by the end of the week. Now, in addition to that, we have a very wide bullish consolidation. When these two are going both down together, the blue one's at the bottom, it's a bullish consolidation. That means price is trying to consolidate, but it's doing so with a bullish trend in mind, or at least a reduction of bearish momentum. You have an 85 over 7% here. So that's, can't do quick math all of a sudden, but it's like 72% gap. Pretty good. The wider it is, the better it is for the trend that's below, which is the bulls. Bulls have this in the bag so far. In addition to that, we have an RSI 50 reclaim so far. This is not a closed candle, by the way. This could still go lower, but typically when we go above 50, it tends to be pretty good. We had this here back in September of 2024, and that led up to that rally. So things are looking pretty good. I tend to, and that doesn't always happen because we had a little notch here, a little notch here. So sometimes the 50 is not going to be perfect, but it does tend to be a pretty solid rule. We can also look here maybe at the 2 week chart. We're actually above the 50 here on the 2 week as well. This one's a little bit more better of a rule. When it comes up and down, it tends to be much more weighty, I should say. But I digress from that. That's kind of what we're looking at for the total. Now, this does include Bitcoin, by the way, so just keep it in mind. So we are holding above the range as far as that goes. The total 2, however, is struggling here. Again, this is without Bitcoin, of course. It is at the lows. It's reclaiming and trying to target against the mid, looking a little bit better, right? And so nothing else needs to be said with this. I think it is obviously lagging as far as total comparing it to total 1, of course. And that's going to be par for the course when you tend to have, the market dominance, which we'll look at here in a second, with Bitcoin as high as it is. Bitcoin's going to take the lead. So let's go ahead and look at total 3, because this is going to be interesting, because this excludes Bitcoin and Ethereum, of course, but still has Solana, and you can see this is much more performative. So I've mentioned this for the past 2 or 3 observations videos, that ETH is really holding down the market, even though it's pumped pretty well. We'll get to ETH here in a second, but it was at like 1,500. Now it's at like 17. It's still doing pretty good for the past few days, but it's still lagging. Okay, I mentioned this before. ETH needs to succeed to get a proper bull market. Okay, or I should say an altcoin market. We could still get a bull market without Ethereum, but I think Ethereum needs to do. It needs to have some performance. This is going to be very interesting, because is Solana going to take over? and that could be a debate as well. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not really going to cover that in this video. I do think Solana is probably going to be a bigger risk to reward than Ethereum is, because that just tends to be where it's at. I mean, I think there was a record 21 million volume on Solana today, or the past week or something like that. Can't remember the exact statistic, but there's a lot of activity on Solana still. Meme coins on the Solana in particular are doing very well also. And this is reflective of this because we had a good deviation to the upside. This is really good. Okay. This is working out pretty well. Now, I'm going to go one more option here to the market dominance before we get into the actual charts of this. The dominance is still going up at about 64.38%. Looking here at the mid structure, about 65%. I've said this in various ways last observations with Otsu, that as long as we continue to go up, this is going to be good for Bitcoin. Okay, you want to kind of stay in Bitcoin as long as this is going up. Okay, and so if this does go down at some point, that's typically when alt season kind of comes around. So far, Bitcoin's just completely dominating the market right now. I think it looks pretty good. So anyway, that's kind of the brief update on the total market caps 1, 2, 3 and Bitcoin dominance. Let's go ahead and go to Bitcoin and kind of see how we're doing on the weekly, and we'll go to the other coins as well. All right, so let's take a look at Bitcoin here. And so first of all, we've already have a good pump up so far. So that's just par for the course right now. I wanted to cover this earlier in the week, kind of get an idea. I still thought that we would kind of go up like we are, in this case anyway. But we got a lot of good push up so far. Big gap here on the AREN, which is like I said with total market cap, so doing pretty good. Bitcoin and total market cap are going to have a lot of comparisons in that regard. RSI is above 50. I've said this before. There's no real level to match this. We talked about this level is kind of a retest section, and I mentioned how this is kind of close enough for a retest, and I still think that that's the case. Now I do have this fib block here shown like right here, and this matches the highs and lows, and we're hovering right around the mid, and so this is kind of what I'm looking at as far as this goes. If we can go above the mid, I think this is going to be even more bullish than I would expect. Okay, and so we'll see. We still have about 4, almost 5 days left to go. Needs to hold 92,000 basically by the end of the week. I think it has a good chance to do it. We'll see how that goes, because this is already a pretty aggressive push up. We might get a little bit of a fade going into the rest of the week. We'll see how that goes. But even if we don't go above the mid, if we stay above the band here at 89 and 100 roughly, that's still going to be good. That's going to be a very good consolation. And this is why I still think we're going to get bullish continuation here. Just because we've already pushed up enough to where this should continue to go higher. Okay, I'm not concerned. We could get a chop. We could go down, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things at play, but I'm confident because the trend is still favoring us pretty well, especially on the daily here. I can cover this real quickly here. You had a push up against the band here, pretty aggressive, hitting the mid zone, closed above the mid, looking like it's going to go higher. And I think this is all pretty well. I quite like this, and there are some concerns about like, well, it could fade, blah blah blah, tariffs, blah blah blah. You had your chance. Okay, I'm not saying we can't go down, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that we were going to go higher. Okay, even without the news. Okay, 3-day was a good one here with a bear div. It almost looks like a double bottom, but technically is a divergence, hitting above that mid. AREN has crossed high bullish on here at about 69%. Anything above 50 is really good. RSI is going really good. This is all it takes. Okay, AREN cross, momentum, RSI, good to go. Okay, so we'll see how this goes. This still has another day, almost 2 days to close. And so this could give you some sort of pre-indication if we're going to break the weekly or not. So, and that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. Like I said, we're halfway into the week, so I'm kind of limited on what I can share. But the idea is if we close above the mid here at 92,000, and honestly, even above, like I said, 89,000 by the end of the week, things are going to be looking good really for mid-May, I would say. So that's pretty much Bitcoin. We're going to go to Ethereum. I'm going to do ETH. I'm not going to cover BTC pairs, but so I'm going to cover ETH and Solana, and then I'll do ETH versus Sol, as well. So let's go ahead and go to ETH next. All right, so Ethereum is next one. thing I really want to keep in mind with the weekly is that we have held the week here for about 2 weeks now straight. If you haven't, it's actually one of my best YouTube videos I've had almost for a whole year, but go ahead and check it out. I did a video last week about is Ethereum at the bottom. I gave 4 reasons why I think Ethereum has bottomed, and it's a well performed video, but check it out if you haven't. Basically, my idea is that we should be holding this mid range. I gave the 4 reasons why. We're getting this push up above here. Now, locally on this daily is where we might get some resistance. So if we can get above here to about 1860, it's looking pretty good. Again, you have an Aaron cross. This is a low bullish cross, however, so low conviction cross. So there is a chance that we could reject this, come back down to about 1600 first. And so that is plausible. RSI is above the 50 marker, so that's pretty good. And again, this is going to be par for the course. Doesn't necessarily mean just because we're above the RSI 50 doesn't mean we're going to go crazy on this, but it's just a sign that when things get above 50, the momentum is going to start favoring the bulls. And so when Aaron crosses bullishly, that means the trend is in favor. So the higher the line, the higher the trend. So this would be a bearish trend with bearish momentum. Okay, and that's why I look at this. I'm looking at both trend and momentum here because that's really important. Okay, momentum is going to be where you want to make your money. Okay, trend of course is going to be fine, but when you have trend and momentum together, that's typically when you can activate your swing trades, right? And so when this goes above here, we had a mid to slightly high bearish cross here. Then you had a failure below the 50. This is where you can take advantage of your shorts. Okay, so like your short position like so. I'm just kind of eyeballing this, right? And so that's where you can get something great here. 45% down move, and that's why, because the trend and momentum were both bearish. Okay, now this is still technically bearish here, but we got to push up against the zone. One reason is because we have this consolidation hook right here. Okay, so that leads into that, right? And so now we have a bearish cross. So the bullish cross. So the bullish trend is above, and the bullish trend also has momentum. So you got to keep this in mind. But this is a low conviction cross. So that basically means, it basically means like bears have kind of taken something away from the bulls. So just keep that in mind. So we need to reclaim that 1860, like I said. Other than that, I think Ethereum's doing pretty good. I still think it's going to be the least performing coin. But we'll see. It needs to do something well. We're going to take a look briefly at Solana ETH before we go into Solana as well. And basically, the biggest thing I need you to know is this channel here. And so this could take various forms, but this is pretty much your channel. Starting to get closer to the top of the range. And we'll see. Honestly, if this can break above this trend here, I kind of think Solana is going to be the ecosystem for the bull run. And so I've mentioned this before. I really feel like Ethereum needs to perform well for the bull market to really be impactful for altcoins. And if it doesn't, either we won't get a true altcoin bull run. I think we'll still get a bull run, but it'll be more Bitcoin focused. Or two, Solana is going to take Ethereum's spot. And I don't think people really understand that. I kind of want to look here at CoinGecko and looking at this as like, so Ethereum is number 2 spot. And so the last thing I want to do is talk about like flipping, right? Because Ethereum is pretty strong. But XRP used to be number 2 at one point as well. So anyway, market cap here, $214 billion. Okay, pretty good, pretty substantial. Solana, 78 billion. Okay, so we're about 150% away. Okay, so let's just say like 2x away. That's plausible. That's very plausible. Solana is close to flipping Binance. Okay, and obviously XRP is going to be next. And so I do think we could flip XRP. I think Solana can flip XRP. I'm not saying necessarily we. I'm not in charge of anything, but I think there's a good chance that Solana can flip here. And I don't think people are ready for that, to have that kind of conversation. So anyway, that's just something to think about with this channel going in place. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that is ETH and Solana ETH. Let's go ahead and go to Solana. All right, so Solana here on the weekly. Biggest thing I want you to know is that we've had a run for the past 3 weeks now. Aaron is still bearish, but a wide bullish consolidation. RSI is not above the 50, so you have some time here. This is lagging, although the fact that it's been on what, like a 30% run from the lows, roughly like 44%, 43, 44. So pretty solid overall. The biggest thing I want you to know here is, like, here's your top level here, your swing high order block for the all-time high. This is your current level that the level that we were at. This is your breaker level with the swing high order block from December 2023, and we broke below that range. Okay, we broke back above it, so this makes this a deviation. For those of you in my premium group, you know what I'm talking about. I talk about it all the time, and so this right here is your bearish breaker. And this should be considered your retest, that what you're looking for. I do think that we're going to hit about 168 here pretty soon. If we can flip above 1.79, we're going to all-time high pretty quickly, in my opinion. Okay, working these levels should be pretty good. Markets are looking pretty decent right now. So, but this is the deviation that I'm looking at. That's really the main thing you need to know. I think this is some very good protection. I think this is one of the best looking main coins out there right now. Deviations are very strong. Holding that 150 range, I still think we're going to tag 168 first, waiting for that reaction on that. RSI does need a reclaim. If we can get to that 168, then we can get that reclaim. I think so. So daily here, holding above this level here from this local high 143 just makes me think we're going to get that 168. So really nothing much else on that. I think Solana is the cleanest on the 1 week. It's not as clean on other time frames, but I think this one is looking pretty good. So yeah, that's just a little quick update. I wanted to cover more, but we're kind of in the middle of the week here, so I just want to get the fast data out there, see how things are, and kind of play that out. But I do think the market is looking pretty good. I think it's going to continue to do so for the next couple of weeks. So anyway, that is the video. Let me know what you think. I'm happy to discuss things more. Go ahead and comment, like, subscribe, and look at my Apex Premium group. I hope you have a good day.